Welcome to episode 1 of the new format for Battle Reports on this channel. Turns out all of the hard work that I was doing with the arrows and the explosions, there's a website called Warhall that just does it for you. Don't I feel stupid? So, I have played a game. I've played a few games now with this list. So this is the list that I've been taking to the Square-based online tournament. It is the Troll Horde list. I have broken it down fully. I'll link that in the description below. But this isn't my warm-up exhibition game because I didn't record that. This isn't my round 1 because Warhol crashed, so I've only got rounds 4, 5, and 6 to show you. This is a game that I picked up against an Ogre player named Auce. So Auce is actually the list from Ogres that I looked at when I did the Square-based Invitational, the Square-based list sort of review when I went through them. And it's a great list. It turns out Auce is pretty good at the game. He's got a lot of practice in, and it was a really fun one. Lots of movement, lots of sort of cerebral thinking with big fat men who want to, get into combat with each other but only have movement 6. So let's have a look at the lists here. So first of all, just a quick overview of my list again. Obviously, if you want to see me break it down fully, there is a video that does that. But I've got Ogdruz. Ogdruz is a level 3 caster. No spells from the lore of Troll Magic and Elementalism. The way it's worded is weird, I think. You could take spells from both lores. I haven't been, because honestly, I just want 3 spells from the Troll lore. That's typically the way to go. Has effectively Lore Familiar, has Lore Familiar. Can't be targeted if you're within 3 inches of any trolls. It doesn't have to be units of 5, which is quite nice. And then also gets +1 to cast if you're within 3 inches of a unit strength 6 unit of trolls. So basically 2 trolls. Nice and easy. Then I've got the Orc Warboss. This is a Orc Warboss and Wyvern. Just a standard Orc Warboss. You can't take the Black Orc one in the Troll Horde Army of Renown. Great weapon, heavy armor, Trollhide trousers, charmed shield instead of talisman of protection, and the Thinking-Ox hat. I've missed a trick here, and I probably should have gone for the Grizzly Trophy Rack to make my terror tests, a lot scarier, but it is what it is, not a problem at all. And we've got a fairly beefy unit here. So the way that this interacts, Troll Horde gives you a reroll of your regen saves if it's against a non-magic attack. Obviously, normally, flaming attacks takes away regen, but not for the Orc Warboss because Trollhide trousers aren't affected by flaming. They're not flammable. And then there's the Troll Hag, who is the general, level 1 wizard, never rolling for spells, just taking big smarts, trying to make sure that I'm passing all those stupidity tests. Troll magic, talisman of protection, keeping it cheap, keeping it simple, incredibly beefy, really hard to chew through, unless you go into something that is specifically designed to kill monsters. But, pretty good. I make some charges in this game that maybe you think I shouldn't have gone for, but absolutely tank through the damage. There's also 2 units of Goblin Spider Riders. These are great little chaff units. They do have Impetuous, which is something that I think I need to adjust how I play them. Honestly, probably just use them more aggressively, so if the charge is not a problem. They've got short bows, again, fairly cheap, nice and just fast chaff units. 2 units of Stone Trolls. There's an 8 and a 6 here. They have great weapons, taking them up to strength 7, which is really nice. The reason I've gone for Stone Trolls over River Trolls is the main weakness of this list is Fireballs. It's just Fireballs. So you have a slightly better armor save against it, a 5-up save instead of a 6-up, because you don't get the regen against the Fireballs, and you also get Magic Resist 1, which makes it slightly harder for your opponent to get the Fireballs off, especially if they're using Ruby Ring of Rune. They have to roll a 7 instead of a 6, which is a little bit of a difference at least. Moving on, there's a unit of 2 River Trolls, which is mostly there just to support Ogdruz, often walk around in marching column. Honestly, I think I want to start them just as a 2 next to each other so they can charge and support if needs be most of the time. But great weapons there. They're River Trolls because they have an extra wound, and then you're not so worried about using the, if your opponent's putting shots into them, like repeated fireballs, they're going to die anyway. So it's better just to have the extra wounds and make it harder for them to be picked up. On my opponent's side, Auce was playing Slaughtermaster on the Big Beastie. That's on the... it doesn't say... Oh, no, sorry, Slaughtermaster's the caster. Getting my names confused. So, level 4 Battle Magic Slaughtermaster. So, Grudge Sickle, not picking spells, just rolling spells, which is a little bit risky. This is something that we talked about, and he said, chances are you're going to get at least one of the 2 between Pillar of Fire and Fireball, and you're probably going to get, you're fairly likely to get both. So you'd rather just have the Grudge Sickle, which is do a wound to one unit within 3, an allied unit, and add D3 to your cast. So you'll see there's a unit of 20 Noblar fighters there as a nice snack for the Slaughtermaster. Also gone for Longstrider just to plus 1 inch movement. Quite nice to get up in the keep up with the rest of the list. I don't understand why it keeps doing this. It keeps refreshing, but never mind. We'll get through. The Tyrant. We've got a Tyrant with on a Stonehorn, so that's the big beastie, reduces multiple damage by 1, has impact hits but no stomp attacks, so quite good if you can get into combat, but if you get into a protected combat, there can be an issue. Has Death Cheater, so reroll 1 successful wound roll per game. If Auce says reroll that one, I have to reroll it. Basically, it's protection from Monster Slayer, stopping those 6s coming through and killing your character. Tenderizer, this is a 70-point magic item, which from memory is +2 strength, AP -3, magic attacks, D3 damage. So basically, an Ogre Blade on steroids. I'm not sure it's super worth going for over the Ogre Blade, but the extra AP is quite nice. Talisman of Protection as well, trying to keep that big general on Stonehorn as alive as long as possible. There's a unit of 20 Noblar fighters, already talked about. 2 units of 4 Iron Guts with I believe it's Standard and Musician, but no Champion to prevent them from being challenged out. 3 Ogre Bulls with Iron Fists, no command. 5 Man-Eaters with using and abusing the Motley Crew rule, and I don't mean that negatively. It's how these units definitely should be used, because guard infantry needs all the help it can get. So effectively, there's 3 that have a 4-up save with the Iron Fist and the heavy armor. There's 1 captain that's got a great weapon, and then there's 1 on the end which is just cheap as chips, no upgrades. The way that it works is because over half the unit has a 4-up save, you take the 4-up save and you can allocate the attacks to the worse equipped one, so that one dies first. Then the second one, you just take wounds on the regular Man-Eaters, and then last of all, the captain dies, which is the one that does the heavy hitting. They've got poisoned attacks and vanguards. Man-Eaters get to pick 2 USRs for free out of a list of, I think it might only be 4, but Poisoned and Vanguard are very nice. It doesn't say on here, but it does have the, I believe, full command and also the Dragonhide banner, so reroll 1s to wound and flaming attacks from memory. The flaming attack stuck with me. This is a unit that can absolutely cleave through pretty much anything in my list, because flaming just turns off all of the things that I don't want turned off. And for some reason, it's not on the list here, but there's also a unit of 4 Mournfang Cavalry. They've got the Cannibal Banner, which means they only pursue 1d6 instead of 2, but they get a 5-up regen, which makes them just incredibly beefy. Great unit. I think Auce was talking about it. He said they get like 24 attacks between the unit, 12 from the great weapons, 12 from the Mournfang, which are, strength 5, AP 1, loads of impact hits. They can really grind through combats, which is fairly terrifying to face off against. Great unit. Probably good that they're limited to 1 per 1,000 points. So coming into deployment here, you can see that I started off here with my Goblin Spider Riders. I dropped them, and then I said, how much shooting have you got? My opponent said, I've just got the Slaughtermaster, and I immediately realised that I could deploy everything else on the line and not feel too scared about it. So other unit of Spider Riders over here, big unit of Stone Trolls in the centre, that's a 6. There's an 8 there as well. 2 River Trolls behind Ogdras. Ogdras just deployed over here, slightly just within 12 of the Boar Boys to try and cast the regeneration spell. Big unit of Boar Boys there. I don't know if I talked about the Boar Boys fully, but they have got the Biggins upgrade, and they've got the... my brain's gone blank. The flag that gives them +1 strength. So effectively, because of the Biggins giving them armor bane and extra strength, and the extra strength from the banner of Butchery, I think it is, you get them up to 2 attacks each from previous charge, strength 6, AP 2, armor bane 1. So they're effectively strength 4 with lancers, and the boars themselves are strength 6 with AP 1 as well, which is not too shabby. Rerolling 1s to wound on the lancers from choppers. So I've deployed, and I got the first drop. Sorry. I had less drops, so I get to sort of see where my opponent put his characters. So he put the Slaughtermaster down here and the Tyrant over to the right as well. So as soon as I saw that, I sort of hard deployed to the left with the intention of baiting out the Tyrant with the Orc Boar Boys, just trying to, keep him tied up here, make him run after me as much as possible. Hopefully not lose the Boar Boys if I can outposition him, but then just crunch this side of the board. My opponent had some Mournfang cavalry in cover. I'm not 100% sure why I deployed them here. I guess it was probably just a lack of space more than anything else. And they've got the movement to get out because they're movement 8 anyway. And they've wounds dense enough that they're probably not going to care about taking any damage. Ogre Bulls were deployed first. The Iron Guts couldn't quite fit in next to the Ogre Bulls, so he had to deploy them in a 3 with one behind, and the other unit of Iron Guts, over here. And then the Man-Eaters, done it again, great. The Man-Eaters deploy on the line, and they vanguard forwards before we know who goes first. So, deployment's done, we roll off, my opponent gets the +1, but I still do manage to get the first turn. I've been complaining quite a lot about not going first in a lot of my games, and my luck is definitely seems to have changed. In my last 4 or 5 games, I think I've gone first in all but one of them, so I should probably stop complaining about that. On to my turn 1. In Warhall, the button to skip your turn or to go to the next turn, which is when the screenshot is taken, that button is right next to rolling the dice. So I think there are a couple of points in this game where I pass my turn very early in the turn, so the screenshots look a little bit odd, but we'll get to that as we get to it. I think it mostly sort of comes out in the wash. Actually, speaking of, this is the example of when I did it first. I hadn't even realized. So this is post-deployment. Into my turn 1, you can see I pretty much full send over here. Everything comes forwards. I stay 12.1 inches away with a big unit of 8 here. The Spider Riders come up here to shoot some shots into the Mournfang Riders if they move up. If they declare a charge, stand and shoot. I'm not super worried about getting caught because of the dangerous terrain test and also potentially pinking off a couple of wounds. Mournfang are great, but they don't have the best save in the world, so it's, I want to try and thin them out. The Wyvern just sits behind the unit of Stone Trolls here. I did initially put it on the hill, but I didn't want the Mournfang to just, redirect into the Wyvern. That would suck. They don't have any command in there, so I can't challenge them out. That would be unpleasant for me. Over here in the center, these Stone Trolls move up, make sure that they're out of charge range of both the Man-Eaters here and the Tyrant as well. He hadn't moved up at this point. Ogres just shifts up there. Don't do very well with my casting, unfortunately. I get big smarts off on Ogres. I don't get it off on the Troll Hag, which is a real shame. I don't get off the regen spell over here either. And other than that, I just sort of come forwards with the Boar Boys and I come forwards with the Spider Riders. The thinking with the Boar Boys is I want to sort of dance at the max declarable range charge of the Tyrant. I want to make sure it stays interested. I don't want to let it come over here and deal with this threat. However, coming into Auce's turn, Auce just full sends forwards the Stonehorn. I was not expecting this and I did not have a plan for it, so I am up shit creek without a paddle. That is very much how I'm feeling. So he full sends up here. The Iron Guts full send up as well on top of the hill, just to stay in range and, try and get off some multi-charges or make it harder for me to do any shenanigans, especially with the Spider Riders. The Man-Eaters sort of just pivot, facing off into the Stone Trolls. So Auce does take Troll Guts, I think the spell is called, the one that gives regen to a unit, which I think is frankly racist given the troll army that I'm playing, but he does manage to get Troll Guts off here, giving the Man-Eaters a regen, which makes them quite a scary prospect. The the Slaughtermaster moves up, casts Fireball into the unit of Trolls, manages to get 2 wounds through, which I'm fairly okay with. As fireballs go, it could have been a lot worse. Tries to cast Pillar of Flame and miscasts. Takes a wound on himself and I believe kills a couple of the Noblars as well with the explosion. I don't think manages to do anything into the Man-Eaters. I think it was a case of there were a couple of partial hits on the Man-Eaters, miss all of those. A few partial hits on the Noblars, hit all of those. So a lot worse off for the Noblars than it was for the Man-Eaters, which is the way round you want it. Losing a 2-point model is not the end of the world. Over in this little bit of the board here, the Bulls do a funny sideways reform just to clear space up, and the Iron Guts decide to go full 4 wide. The reason he goes for this is he doesn't want to move close into my declarable charge range because he's 12.1 away. This is reasonable. So he uses his movement to go wider, just sort of stands there and goes, I'm going to do something. He has the threats here. He's pushing hard on the flanks with the Tyrant and the Mournfang, so I really have to accelerate the pace of the game, I think. So, not too much happens turn 1 other than me absolutely bricking it because there's a a Stonehorn right in the face of my fairly expensive unit of Boar Boys, because they are tooled up to the nines, and there's 11 in the squad. All right, moving on to my turn 2. So what happens here is the Wyvern boss charges into the front rank. I was expecting to challenge them out, but Auce had been very clear that there was no command in there. I just completely forgot. I'm not used to seeing big units without command, so that's my bad. The Spider Riders, I will come back to that in a second. The don't know why it keeps doing that. The Trolls, I decide to also go wide, so I add. I use my movement to reform. I go up to 6 wide because the widest unit that Auce has got is a 4, sorry, so I want to be 2 wider. We were on the same width base, so want to get as much into melee combat as possible. I recognise that I can't just sort of mess around here, so the Boar Boys wiggle over to the right. They only move 3.5 inches, so they don't go very far. But the plan is that after the declared charge, I flee off this way. I'm less likely to go off the board because the pivot, I think I'm less likely to get caught as well. And it just gives me sort of potential agency to run round the side here and try and rejoin the fight later on in the game, turn 4, turn 5, something like that. In the center, I full send forwards with the unit of 6 trolls. Well, not full send. I shuffle them forwards, make sure there's no way that my opponent can get a disordered charge by clipping the edge there, and I full send the troll hag forwards. This is important. So the troll hag is my general, and it is susceptible to the man-eater. However, it's also unbreakable. So I think I need to accept that something's going to take the charge. I have to dictate the pace of this game. I'm going for it. In the center here, I do manage to get the Ravenous Recourse off, which is extra 2-inch range to all of my troll units move. Anything with stupidity gets extra move. And also the big smarts stays in play, but I don't manage to cast it on the troll caster again, which is unfortunate. Combat-wise, the combat up here, I do a surprising amount of wounds. I only take 2, which is not too bad. But in return, I think I do 4. However, I do lose. And I can't quite remember why I lose. I think I lose by 1, or it's maybe a tie, and then the musician beats me. That was it, yes. I then roll to see if I fall back, and I do. I roll, I think it was literally an 8 on the dice, which means I fall back in good order, which is unfortunate, but, not the end of the world. Doing this panics the Spider Riders, so the spiders then just disappear off into the distance to do nothing useful for the rest of the game other than, cause me issues. And the Mournfang Cavalry do try and follow up there as well. Coming into Auce's next turn, so this is Auce's turn 2. What happens is the Mournfang Riders declare into the Wyvern. The Wyvern decides to stand, take the charge. Very nice. Not going to be a problem. Over in the center here, nothing happens again. We just continue this game of staring at each other again, because Auce knows that he's going to potentially wrap around me with the Mournfang Cavalry if they can do their job. It means that he is not the one that has to put his foot on the pedal. The man-eaters charge in over here. I deliberately got close so they didn't get any impact hits, just trying to lessen any issues. And over on the right flank, the Mournfang and the Iron Guts both declare into the Boar Boys, who do flee and then do take 11 full dangerous terrain tests, and I don't roll a single 2. This is very different to my experience fleeing through terrain in person when I played at the square-based tournament, when I lost, I think it was 6 on my second turn in the first game when I charged into some Hellblasters and cover. So, Boar Boys have got away. This flank is really pulled out of position, which is fantastic for me. It's exactly what I'm looking for, given the game state. It wasn't necessarily how I planned it to go in the first place, but I think it was a really nice adaptation. I was happy with that. On to combats then. Let's start with the bad one. The Wyvern does, I think, 1 wound. Absolutely fluffs it. Only does a single wound into the Mournfang. This is where I realise I forget that I should have called my War. If I'd called the War, what would have happened was I'd have had an extra 1 combat res. I'd have got the reroll 1s to hit. I'd have had that added efficiency. Auce would have still charged into me. That's the position of the game. And if I lose the combat, the war boss is just out of the fight anyway. So it was a real misplay not doing that, and it probably would have changed the course of the game over here. But what happens is I lose. Again, I'm looking to, I only lose by 1 or 2. I'm thinking maybe I just give ground. It's probably not the end of the world. Nope, double 6 off the board, gone. This is a terrifying position to be in, because I was really hoping that the Wyvern would just either tie this up for the rest of the game or for the majority of the game, because it's not going to take many wounds, especially if he's not getting impact hits if I'm giving ground. But yeah, it goes very poorly. The Spider Riders again panic and flee off even further, or fall back in good order, I think it is technically. So that's not ideal. Great. In the center here, I challenge, and Auce decides to accept with the... No, sorry, he declines with the great weapon. That is it. So the captain declines, which is the only great weapon in the squad. He's hoping that he can get some poison hits, rolls a load of attacks, only does 2 wounds to me through my armor save and my ward save from Talisman of Protection, which is fantastic. Huge fan of that. And I do quite a lot of attacks back. So the way the Troll Hag works is she's got a table like the giant that she rolls, but her table is way better. So what I did was I rolled a 1 or a 2 on the table, which it's not great if you get it into a single model, but against a unit, it is pretty good. So I got a quite funny screenshot here. What happens is you put a 5-inch blast template over the center of the unit, and it hits everything apart from the Troll Hag. What that means is I got 2 definite hits into the ogres. I got 3 partial hits, but I also got 1 partial hit into the Noblar. This was hilarious to me more than anything else. I had a good case of the giggles when we were sort of looking this up. Turns out if you kill a model that's not engaged in combat with you in combat, it still counts for combat res. So 1 Noblar died. I got, I think, 4 out of the 5 went through as wounds from the hits into the man-eaters here. Then I rolled some stomps. I got 5 stomps out of the possible D6. So I think, let's have a look. Yeah, we're left with, I did 6 wounds to the man-eaters out of, Auce did 2 to me. I did 6 back. They broke and fled. I think the Noblars, from memory, fell back in good order, or panicked and fell back. And I elected not to pursue, which is a shame. I really should have done, given the state of the game later on. I didn't know he was going to get a small roll, and I was hoping to charge into the Slaughtermaster, but it is what it is. What I was hoping to do was declare charges into these 2 units and then redirect into the Slaughtermaster, thinking that you couldn't respond, forgetting that you actually do get to flee if you are redirected into. So that was a little bit of a whoopsie on my part there. But these are the things that we're looking to iron out. So not a bad turn 2. Things are looking okay for me. And then we go into Auce's turn 2. Oh, sorry. That was it. That was Auce's turn 2. So he charged here, and despite charging me, I won the combat and run down. So 1 combat that went very against my favor, 1 combat that went very in my favor. Moving on to turn 3. Spider Riders fell their impetuosity. This is terrible. So look where the Mournfang Cavalry are now. They are facing the wrong direction. Look where they end up. This is not ideal for me. I'm not happy about this. On my turn, I full march forwards the Stone Trolls, because again, as I said, I've realized it's a stalemate. I've got to do something about this. Ogdras moves up just to stay in range of this squad in terms of, being sheltered. The 2 Trolls move down to try and get the flank charge. What I'm assuming is Auce is going to double charge into me. I'm going to probably fall back in good order or give ground, at which point I'll be able to get a flank charge in with these 2 River Trolls, add to the combat, probably win on my next turn, turn 4. Over in the center here, I declare charges where the Shaman declares a charge into the Man-Eaters, as does the Stone Trolls. I declare charges into, I think I declare into the Ogre, into the Noblars, and into the Man-Eaters. The Man-Eaters have to flee. I elect to chase the Man-Eaters with 1 unit, and then the other unit decides to chase into the Slaughtermaster. The Slaughtermaster then redirects. This is where I messed up, and I didn't realize that I was not going to be able to do that. But the Slaughtermaster flees there as well. A fleeing caster is still pretty good. I would like to have, caught it. It's a lot of points, but not the end of the world. So running down the Man-Eaters, great result. Happy about that. Up here, terrible result. Not happy about that. Weirdly, my Spider Riders lose the combat. They do 1 wound. I was hoping to finish off a Mournfang, but they flee. They just get out, so there's 2 left remaining up there. And over in the flank here, the Boar Boys do a number of maneuvers. So they pass their rally because they fled from the charge. So they rally and they reform, and they have to take, I think it's just a straight up 11 dangerous terrain tests. I only fell 2 of them, 2 die. Then I wheel round and run in this direction, taking another 9 dangerous terrain tests, 2 more die. This is fine. I've still got, I've still got an absolute chunk of the unit. The points are still there. My opponent hasn't managed to run them down, and I'm feeling like at this point of the game I can probably just run around here, catch the Slaughtermaster, everything's going to be hunky-dory, and the Stonehorn's going to be pretty out of the game. It's going to be very difficult for him to do anything, which is bon magnifique. As for the rest of the game, yeah, there's no real combat here. I just run down a fleeing unit, and it's quite a quick one. So on to turn 3 for Auce. This looks significantly less good for me. So the Mournfang charge into the Spider Riders, who flee. They have to flee directly away, and then they try and get around the building. They do not manage it. They get caught. Auce does pass the test to reform and faces towards me. There's a double charge down here into the big unit of Stone Trolls. There is a turn. So Auce does the turn here. I always get the names of these confused. It's the reform, I believe, using half his movement to reform 180 degrees, and then he moves 3.5 inches, I think it is as well. And then the key part is he manages to cast Arcane Urgency from his Slaughtermaster. This is backbreaking. I was hoping that he either wouldn't get it off or I'd be able to dispel it. It doesn't happen. Them's the breaks. The Slaughtermaster, the Tyrant, is back up in the business, and it's going to be very difficult for me to respond to, because the way the overruns went, I end up in a really weird bottlenecked spot, which is very awkward for me. The Slaughtermaster does manage to get off some spells, cast Fireball into the Troll Hag there. No wounds. Wasn't even worried. Even though you're winning on 5s. Wasn't even worried. The Pillar of Flame does go off, and it's positioned, unfortunately, to hit 2 of my units here. This is going to be, a bright pain in the backside for me. But I don't dispel it, so it is what it is. Over on the right flank, the Iron Guts turn to face the Boar Boys, and they have a surprisingly long charge, 12 inches, so the way that Auce has positioned them, it's difficult for me to get out of range. It basically, I'm out of march block range, but I just have to sort of full send forwards on my turn, otherwise they're going to be set up to take a charge. Combat-wise, over here, the Bulls and the Iron Guts go first. They make a lot of attacks, and I pass an absolutely disgusting amount of regen saves, which obviously still counts for combat res. I think the combat res total was 14 wounds done to the unit, and I believe I passed 10 of them. So, and yes, that is on a 5-up rerollable, but that's still, I should have passed about 7 or 8 of them. So it's only skewing a little above, but it felt very illegal, the amount of regen saves I passed there. I swing back, I kill almost 3 of the Iron Guts. I put all my attacks there where I can, and I don't do anything back into the Bulls, but I do lose Bond combat res pretty spectacularly. Fortunately, I only fall back in good order, don't go very far, and I'm just sort of tucked back here in the center, pretty happy for another turn. Oh no, that was it. I give ground. I don't fall back in a good order, so there's actually not enough room for me to get in. Given the angle that I fall back as well, which is why it looks so weird, I had to fall back from the Bulls because they were slightly bigger, which meant that I was roadblocked in here. Coming into my next turn, my turn number 4, the Boar Boys full send round to the side, again trying to just set it up so I can deal with the Slaughtermaster. It's a right tricksy bugger. I walk out, wheel with the Troll Hag, and then use my Lumber Pivot to get out of the way of the unit of 6 Stone Trolls, which then use their movement to redress the ranks. They go from a 3 to a 6. I don't have any unit champion in there. Trolls can't take a unit champion. What that means is that I'm going to be more likely to not win, but do some real damage back when Auce charges in. So I'm hoping that I can spike heavily on the great weapons, because I'm only hitting on 4s, but I am wounding on 3s. And potentially, if I'm running some 6s, that's AP4 from the Great Weapon Armor Bane and the inbuilt Armor Bane as well. Over here on the side, there are some... how does this go? The combat continues. I kill another one of the Iron Guts, and again, win on number of wounds done, but because of the regen and then the double close order, the banner as well, I end up losing the fight there, and I think I fell back in good order this time. Not anything particularly much. As for the Ogres, I took some damage on the... God damn it. I took some damage on the River Trolls here. From memory, I think I miscast and I did a large blast, something along those lines. There was some splash damage that went into the unit of 2 over here. I can't quite remember what it was from, but there was a little bit of damage that ended up going their way. As for that, there wasn't a lot left for my turn. It is looking a little tight, but I think the game's pretty neck and neck. Obviously, this isn't a great setup for me, but the Troll Hag is set up to potentially do some damage here. It relies on me getting the charge off, but the result, the 3 and the 4 result on the Troll Hag table is you just take wounds. You get to take your ward saves, but you don't get armor or regen. So if I can do a chunk of wounds to the Tyrant, I'm hoping that I can charge and finish it off with the Troll Hag. That's the sort of game plan here, and that will swing the game massively in my favor if I do. Coming into Auce's turn 4, we see what we expect. The Mournfang's full send towards me. The charge is made here by the Tyrant on Stonehorn, goes into the models that are directly in front of them. Again, he doesn't get impact hits because I believe I'm close enough to prevent that. No, I think he probably does get impact hits. I think he just rolls poorly on the impact hits. He gets like 1 or 2 and not too much happens there. Again, I pass an illegal amount of regen saves, which is quite nice. But I don't do much back. I lose. I fall back in good order. I go through the Troll Hag, which is unbreakable, so it's not a problem, but it is in a position where now I can't charge with the Troll Hag, so realistically, I've probably positioned that quite poorly. The Iron Guts on the right flank here just march up, again, trying to look like they're threatening the Boar Boys, trying to make it so that the Shaman is safe. If he doesn't commit this unit here, the Boar Boys have free reign to come into the flank and do something, so this is a very frustrating thing for me to have to deal with. Over on the flank here, what Auce decides to do is set up he doesn't want to charge in, because if he charges in, he knows that I'm likely going to win. I've whittled him down to the point where there's only 1 Iron Gut left. There's the 3 bulls, but the bulls don't do very much, and there's 2 wounds on the bulls already, so he's worried about taking some damage there. What he does do is he shuffles back and he sets it up so that there's no way for me to get into the Iron Guts with a charge. I'd have to go into the bulls. It would end up being a disordered charge because of the bit of terrain here. So he would then wheel into me. He'd get the initiative. He'd hit me first and, potentially just tie me up until he can get the charge in the rear with the Mournfang cavalry. So looking pretty all right for Auce. And then it comes into my turn, and I'm feeling pretty okay about this. What I want to do, I want to make this charge here. I want to come in and tie them up, and just do as much damage as possible. This is where it goes wrong. I failed double stupidity. Stupidity's been going pretty all right for me for the course of the game. I lost. I had some issues because of impetuosity up here, but it is what it is. Sometimes them's the breaks. Stupidity. Both units here of Stone Trolls, the Stone Trolls and the River Trolls failed the stupidity test. This is unfortunately backbreaking, because instead of charging in here and doing something, I just stumble forwards and I just get completely bottlenecked and I don't do anything. Ogres just hides around the side to try and stay alive. This is now my turn 5, so I'm hoping that I can not lose too many of the units and just mop up some last units as well, but it's not looking great for me. Combat here continues, not all that much happens, I believe, from memory, and the Troll Hag moves up to basically position so I can charge the Stonehorn in the flank. If this combat continues, I'm hoping that I either fall back in good order or I give ground, at which point I hit the terrain, the combat continues, and then I can charge on my turn. And then the Boar Boys just full send it as well. I'd love to. We'd spent about 10 minutes measuring this out. I tried to wheel it round to get a charge into the Slaughtermaster, but if I did that, it was always going to be a declarable charge from the Iron Guts. As it is, it's still like an 11-inch charge here, so I'm not super happy about it, but it is what it is. Auce's turn 5. This is where it just really goes wrong. So starting off in the center here, the Mournfang make the charge into the back, the Bulls make the charge into the front. The Iron Gut decides not to make the charge, which I think is the right choice, because I'd have just finished it off and got some victory points. But there is a whole long shenanigans here. Basically, I end up having to take some panic tests due to models fleeing. Then I flee through other models. So that's why Ogdras ends up over here. I'm going to lose my rag with this. Ogdras ends up over here. There's a weird situation where Ogdras is actually blocking the Mournfang. I decide to use evasive to get out of the way. In retrospect, this is wrong. I shouldn't have done it. Or I should have evasived forwards so that the Mournfang charges into me but doesn't get the impact hits. Maybe I possibly survive at that point. But instead, the Mournfang then gets to go, catches that big unit of trolls, and I am left without very much. Pillar of Fire is set up here to potentially catch something or just, try and finish off that wounded unit of river trolls. And the fireball finally goes through and does 2 wounds to the river troll, so the troll hag. So I'm not feeling in a great situation at all. On this flank, it's very sad for me. What happens is we decide, so basically the charge is measured out. We do a bit of measuring. We decide that Auce only needs to roll a 5 on the dice, which is not that unlikely with Swift Stride. Sorry, not with Swift Stride, with rolling 2 dice. So I think I feel safer declaring a flee reaction. If I flee, then I will go... if I go 7 or less, we measure it out. If I go 7 or less, I stay on the board. I know that I've got something like a 60% chance to roll a 7 or under. Just mathematically, I feel okay about that. And I think I'm more likely to survive if I declare a flee, roll a 7 or less, get down to here, hopefully rally next turn, and then just do something on my turn to try and salvage that big brick of points. What happens is I declare a flee, I roll an 8, I'm off the board. Auce then gets to do some movement shenanigans, come around the side, and it is looking terrible for me. Onto my final turn, I do make a charge in here with Ogdras and with the single river troll that's remaining. Comes in, tries to finish off the unit of, I think it was 2 ogre bulls that were here. The troll hag does charge into the tyrant. I'm hoping that I can roll really well, and he rolls terribly. I mean, obviously, it's more likely that he's going to finish me off, but there's no way I can get away with how he's positioned. It has, maybe I could have got it out of its charge arc. I don't think I could. I'm sure I measured it out at the time. Anyway, I was going Guts of Glory in a non-tournament game, or even just why not play for the win if you can play for a win as opposed to a draw or a loss? Makes more sense. So effectively what happens is I lose my general, so that's a big chunk of points. Over here, I try and get the bulls, don't quite finish them off on my turn, and then Auce says, oh, that's game. I can't do anything. I can't charge anyone. And then he goes, wait, actually, hold on. Let's do the last combat. So we do the last combat, which, yes, I don't have a screenshot for, but we do leave the bull on, I think it's a single wound between Ogdras and the river troll there. So don't get any points. So the points end up being quite a smashing, and we'll get into that in a second. But if you look at what's remaining on the board, there is the level 2, the caster, who's still alive. There's the tyrant, who's got half his wounds remaining. Both of those are fair enough. They're completely unreacted to. There's the unit of Iron Guts that haven't done anything. But then over here, there is a single... I think, is this a single Iron Gut? There's a Mournfang, there's 1 bull, and there's an Iron Gut here. So there's just 4 small units that I get no points for, because very cunningly, Auce has built his list in a way where you have to kill entire units to get points. You don't get 25 points for, if you're under 25%, you give some points up. Can't be under 25% if you're only a 4 model unit. So that's a good learning for me. And honestly, I think I might adapt my Troll Horde list to have some smaller MSU 4-man units. That's probably a way to go. But so moving on to the points, if I just share the screenshot I took, I get absolutely run over. 1,788 points, and I only get 455. So, like I said, I think the game was a lot closer than the points looked, but at the end of the day, I think that's off the top of my head, like a 17-3 or an 18-2, something like that. Absolutely smash. However, it was a great game, a really good learning experience for me. Auce moved really well, and obviously it was a mirror match of sorts. So we were doing the sort of dance off where you've got Monstrous Infantry with move 6 that can only declare a charge 12 inches, doing the dance there. He absolutely outmaneuvered me, but I think I learned a lot over the course of this game. Thank you for watching. I'm looking to do at least one of these videos every week, especially while the Squarebot online tournament is on. Makes it very easy to get games. Hopefully I'll bring you round 2 next week. If you wanted to see how I did in round 1, I will be talking about that on the Close Order podcast this week. I guess just having a bit of a roundup about how things have gone so far with the tournament and in general. And thanks for watching.